Can take being legless. That's not too hard to take. What's really hard to take is to watch my family falling apart, watch my wife and children, my children failing school, because we're looking at no long-term financial security.
It's a clip from a global national story that we aired a short time ago. Major Mark Campbell, you just saw him in the clip. He joins us now in studio. You were wounded in Afghanistan, but your fight continues. You're dealing with, as you saw in the headline there, changes to veterans' benefits. So first of all, why don't you tell us about your injuries and how you came to be wounded?
Sure, Sophie. Thanks. I guess I should begin first and foremost by saying that I'm actually a BC boy. So one of the reasons I'm out here is to spread the word in hopes of paving the way for me to come back here someday. My injury occurred in 2008. My job was to train the Afghan National Army, basically provide them on-the-job training in combat. So we were on a foot patrol. It was June the 2nd, hot day, sunny, as a typical Afghan day, about 55 degrees. Long story short, in order to go provide assistance to an injured Canadian, we had to proceed rather quickly in a certain direction towards the guns. We knew we were going to get into a gunfight. Unfortunately, what happened was we ended up getting ambushed. And the way they initiated the ambush was to wait for me to walk across a certain point where they'd buried an improvised explosive, detonate that explosive to create confusion, and then hit us from three sides with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades. So that's what occurred that day. I lost my legs, and it was about a 2-hour ordeal with a running gun battle to get away, to get out of the contact, to get me and the other 3 injured Canadians and 1 injured Afghan back to a point where we could evacuate back to the airbase.
So you return home, and then the story picks up that you weren't. Basically, you provide benefits from the Canadian government because you're an injured soldier.
Correct.
But there was a change that was made to the way the benefit packages were put together by the Canadian government. And this is what you're involved in a lawsuit, a lot other people are involved in basically a class action lawsuit. Explain to us, because these changes happened in 2006, is that correct?
That's correct.
So give us an idea about what used to happen and what's happening now.
Sure. Up until 2006, veterans basically throughout the Cold War period had been covered under an act called the Pension Act.
Right. And
that provided things like a tax-free medical pension on top of any military pension that you contributed to and earned. And it gave you, what it gave disabled soldiers was a sense of long-term financial security with a monthly income that ensured that their family's standard of living did not drop as a result of their injury attained serving Canada.
Right.
In 2006, with very little fanfare, what happened was legislation was introduced, and it was passed in the House of Commons with all-party unanimous support based on what the parties were told they were voting on, which was supposed to be a better deal for our new generation of veterans coming out of Afghanistan.
Right.
Which is why it was pushed through very quickly in 2006 with very little oversight, no consultation, no review. There it is. Take it as it is. And this is where the problems begin, because it wasn't properly reviewed. What happened was a bunch of unanticipated and unintended consequences. And one of those is the fact that under the new legislation, our new generation of veterans are significantly disadvantaged compared to our previous generation of veterans. And the interesting part is this all happens in 2006. In other words, in the middle of the war. I served in Afghanistan in 2002 under one set of disability compensation legislation. I was senior leadership, and even I had no inkling that what the new Veterans Charter entailed. So when I served again in 2008, my second time in Afghanistan, little did I know I was serving under a completely different set of disability compensation. So it wasn't until after I got hurt that I realized, holy cow, under this new Veterans Charter, our seriously disabled soldiers, any disabled soldier, is going to leave the forces with between 40 and 90% less financial compensation under the new Veterans Charter than they would have had under the former Pension Act.
So if you'd been injured in your first tour,
I'd have been fine.
Right.
My family would have a secure financial future. We'd be covered under the Pension Act with all the various tax-free benefits, family benefits, and attendant benefits, that all of those family benefits were eliminated under the new Veterans Charter. Under the new Veterans Charter, all of the benefits are now taxable.
So you have, we're just about out of time, but there's a lawsuit in the works right now.
Absolutely.
And there will be a rally today.
Yes, downtown. Yeah.
Outside of Veterans Affairs office.
Correct, yeah.
But it's not necessarily the law, you don't necessarily want to go through the whole lawsuit process.
Well, I think the preference of all veterans is to see the new Veterans Charter, the shortcomings with the Charter, addressed as quickly as possible, because right now, families and young soldiers are suffering. Okay? We need to get this fixed now. Veterans Affairs has recommendations they can enact now. The government has recommendations sitting ready to be enacted to fix the problems, the fundamental problems. So if the government, and I'm talking about the government as a whole here, all parties, because all parties are responsible. If the government as a whole can fix this, then there's no need for us to proceed with a costly and long-term lawsuit. But at the end of the day, what we've seen thus far, up till now, including with other veterans issues, is the government bides its time, and we're probably going to be forced to go to legislation, and that is part and parcel of the Equitas group, which I'd encourage people to look on Google Equitas on the web. You'll see what it's all about.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
All right.
Thank you, Sophie.
Nice to meet
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, nice meeting you.